And so I was in at that point. I was like, I've committed mentally that I'm going to stay up. Next thing I know, it's the 12th inning. I'm like, okay, here they go. They're going to win it here. They're going to win it here.
It's going to happen.
They don't win it there. I look down. It's like 1:30 in the morning. I'm like, oh my God, I can't.
That was pretty much what happened to me.
Can't.
I was doing the side teaching thing, and like I was basically like in between my classes, right? I was like, Sarah, what's the score? So she'd tell me, and then she was watching something on Netflix. So I was watching it on the computer, and then she fell asleep. So like, I'll turn on the TV. Well, at this point, it's like midnight, and I was like, oh, they gotta win. At this point, they gotta win. Like,
you would think.
Fucking Hamels is pitching a good game, and Hendricks was pitching really well, and then it all fell apart. And it's funny because the way that I watch the Cubs differently than you do is like I follow them throughout the season because I don't have the package and all that jazz.
Right.
So like this is when I can like watch it, right? It's playoffs. So I was so excited. And I was like, they've got to come alive. That's what happened, right? It'd be like every other game this year. They'd lose and then they'd put up 10 runs.
Yeah, that's the thing. The last month of the season, that just wasn't happening.
No.
I mean, that'll happen when you have to play, like 37 games in 39 days or something.
I thought it
like
was
that.
40 and 40. Did they have a day off?
They lost. They had 1 day off. They had 1 day off for like the last month and a half. Yeah, it was just rough.
Yeah.
It was awful.
It just sucked though. It's so weird to like. Well, I got my hair cut today too, and I was talking to the barber about it, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, the Bartman game." I was like, "Oh, my buddy and I were at my buddy who lives in Linders. We were at the game." He's like, "Oh, no way." I was like, "Yeah," and then so we got talking about it, and I was thinking to myself, it's funny that like this is where we're at now. Fuck man, they lost the wild card game. This sucks. We're like what 4 or 5 years ago, we would have been like, oh, the wild card game. Even if we just get there, it'll be great.
I mean, if I'm honest, I still like I still look at this. I'm like, all right, I got to watch an entire season of meaningful baseball. I'll take it. Like they've won the World Series now. I got mine.
You got like that hit that you're like.
Generations of my family didn't get that. People have died without ever seeing the Cubs win a playoff, win a World Series. So when I look at this, I'm like, you know what? I got mine. I don't need to be selfish. Like I'm okay. Like I'm enjoying watching meaningful baseball, and that's okay for me.
I'm kind of there with you. Like it's fun to just check in. For me, just check in with the Cubs every day and see how everyone's doing, and like. It's cool to have a winning team, kind of like our Bears right now.
It is fun to have something to enjoy watching.
This is my favorite time of year because you get baseball, football, and basketball. I'm in like sports heaven right now.
I'm really considering trying to do hockey this year because I don't really care about basketball as much as I used to. But yeah. I kind of want to watch hockey, especially now they've like kind of gotten the fighting out of it. And it's just like, here, watch people move really, really fast on ice skates and fling a puck.
It's way more like finesse now.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It reminds me of like, because I get into it for the Olympics too, like what they talk about in the Olympics where it's a lot of finesse and skill. Yeah, it also helps that we have,
a terrible team. We haven't done well in a few years.
Well,
yeah.
Last year, not last year, the year before.
I don't know enough about hockey to actually.
See, I follow all that. I just don't watch it.
Name the first line.
Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves.
I don't think Kane and Taves are usually on the same line.
They were towards the end of the year, I believe, because they were trying to like.
Maybe they were last year. I didn't watch a lot last year. They typically aren't though.
Is Seabrook or is he not?
That would be a defensive man.
Oh, I got two of them.
You want to get started?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Two Dumb Dads. I'm Chris.
I'm Nick.
And this is episode 37 for October 5th. So this week we have a very philosophical discussion planned. We're going to talk kind of about what our philosophy is for parenting, like what it is that you're doing as a parent. I honestly don't know why this has been on my mind, but it has. So I thought I would have a sit down with Nick and we can just kind of like bro out over this, like what's going on.
It's something that's kind of always on my mind, but it was funny to think of when you decide we talk about this. It got me back to things I talk about with my students, like why?
Yeah.
Like it's like here's my philosophy, and then I had to think about why is that my philosophy, and I was like, oh shit, why is that my philosophy? Because if I don't articulate it, Chris is going to eat my soul.
I honestly, it was one of those things where I was thinking about this a week or so ago, and I was like, I know what I do and I know what I'm thinking, but I don't actually know why I'm doing it. Like, what is my ultimate goal?
I'm the same way.
Anyway, look, we'll get there.
Yeah.
We're gonna get there.
Sorry.
But first we have I think a rather important adventure in dadding. We're gonna share this one because it's very much something that I did that I think most people do or think about or experience from one of the two ends here. So I'm going to go ahead and set the scene, and I'll see what Nick's reaction is, because he was very clearly a part of it.
I am very clear a part of this.
All right. So a couple days ago, we recorded Shocktober. I think we teased this on our last episode. We're appearing on, I'm going to get this time.
Get it?
Half White, Son of a Black Man.
Yeah.
With Andrew Sanford.
The man.
He's great. It was a wonderful episode. It should be coming out soon. And on the way back, Nick had driven us up to Harlem to record. And on the way back, we're just kind of talking about, life stuff, our kids. And I decide, I'm going to bring up Miles' pacifier.
Was there a segue into it, or did it just happen? I can't even remember.
I don't think there was a clean segue. I think it was one of those things like, oh, by the way, whatever happened with Miles' pacifier?
I think that was the segue of it.
It was very, very much like a hard left turn. Like, I'm going to bring this up. I'd remembered that a while back. I don't know if it was on the air or if this was just us
no, I think
talking.
I think it was on the air.
But you had said okay, so we are going to work on getting Miles' pacifier out and get the bottles away. And so when you guys came over for football last weekend, I was like, oh, there's Miles, and he has his pacifier super in his mouth and super screamy and yelly when that thing is not in his mouth. Mm-hmm. And so various observations were made. And so the important thing to begin is that I decided, all right, I'm going to bring this up with Nick right now. This is obviously the best time to do this. We're both confined in a car after a long day and 3 hours of recording. Now is definitely the moment to criticize Nick's parenting.
You have just christened yourself officially a dad, because that is a total TV dad mood for any kid. And then the kid's like, fuck you. You're like, hold on, we're cornered in a car. They can't go anywhere. Yeah. Let's talk about sex.
Yeah, because that's clearly the thing you should do, right?
So you're ready for it. You have prepared yourself for this step in your parenting life.
Yeah, that way when Thea decides hey, I need to get away from my dad, I'm like, all right, Thea, we're in the car. Let's talk about your period, because this is something I know a lot about.
Are you using drugs?
Are you using tampons or pads, sweetie?
Just let me know. Do you need some help? You need me to buy something for you?
So, I had the conversation where I essentially said, Nick, you are a fuck up. Why does Miles still have his pacifier? And I think I said it slightly more nicely than that, but not very much. Not very much.
You were like, oh, what happened? I noticed he still has his pacifier, and I'm starting to get a little concerned. And then once you hit little concerned, you're like, no, never mind. I'm gonna be a dick. And I was like, what are you? But then I never followed up with, what are you concerned about? And then you went into this diatribe about something about talking and how he has trouble making V's, and you're like, that should be worried about. And then does he make any words with his mouth closed? And I was like, mommy.
Well, because on Saturday or Sunday, while you guys were over here playing football, Miles had his pacifier in his mouth, and I think he was trying. We were going through the numbers, because Miles is really good at counting. He knows all of his numbers. He's really good. He counts to 10. He loves counting. He's the freaking count.
He does. He is good at counting, and he does that.
And so while he was counting, I think he was on 7, and then Sarah goes well, he just can't do his V's. I'm sitting there and I'm looking at him like, well, yeah, no shit, because you have to close your mouth for a V, and he has a giant fucking wad of plastic in the way.
He says 70s if you're wanting seven V's or 7 B's or something like that. It's like a B.
Yeah, so it was one of those things where I was like, okay, so you are now clearly showing concern over his progress. And yet, here's this big plastic thing. And I remember Aaron walks over and yanks it out of his mouth, and he's like, try again or something like that. I'm like, oh, Aaron is clear. I know my wife, if she actually goes over to a kid and does a thing while their parents are there, that means there's a concern. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to talk to Nick about this. Let's see what they're thinking.
So funny.
And so that's where we were. So let's see what you thought.
Funny thing was, that was not what I was concerned about. So you did this, and I never really got what you were concerned about. So then I went into my deep dark place. I'm like, oh man, is there something developmentally wrong? I didn't talk to Sarah about this. I just stewed on it. I was like, wait, is Chris noticing something that's still developmentally off? Because I'm like, he seems like he's putting 3-word sentences together, which is, he's not even supposed to be doing that yet. That's early. He does 2-word sentences. I mean, you're supposed to have 100 words. I don't count how many words he has, but he it seems like he has a good feel. You know what I mean?
Right.
He can do his ABCs. He can count. You know, he knows Elmo. He put together, there's a video with Elmo Shark, and he's like, Elmo Shark.
Elmo Shark? That's
yeah,
awesome. There is an Elmo Shark one.
And he
I forgot about
is
that.
obsessed with it at daycare. But you know, he'll like walk in and be like, Elmo Shark? So I'm fine, like for the first time in like my parenting life, I'm like, okay, developmentally, I'm feeling good. I'm not a crazy pants. And then you said that, I'm like, fuck, what I miss? Am I missing something? So I proceed to stew on this for like 24 hours. And then I text your wife after class. And I mean, I wish I had my phone. It is like a full-on fucking paragraph. And it's nothing about you being a dick either. It's just, hey, so Chris started talking about this thing, and then he stopped. I think he was afraid that he was being a dick or making me mad.
And I was.
Yeah, but I'm like, you weren't, but we'll get to that. And I'm like, so wait, am I missing something? Is something developmentally off? Aaron, do you notice something? Have you noticed something? Aaron's
Wait, so what was her answer then?
She's like, no, Chris is just concerned about the V sound of the pacifier. And then she's like, but don't worry, kids find sounds at different rates. She's like, the only thing you really have to be concerned about is like his teeth placement.
Yeah, janky teeth.
Yeah, but
that's the thing I was worried about.
But she's like, but you guys know that. And I was like, yeah. Oh yeah, I know that shit. Like my mom worked for a dentist for most of my like life. I'm like, that's a shit I'll deal with. I thought you were like pointing out something like developmentally off. And
fuck.
So I never thought you were being a dick. I just thought that like, I was just like, oh man. And Aaron's like, no, here's an article. You can make your own decision. She's like, I try not to give it to him when we're in daycare. I was like, oh yeah, that's fine. I was like, oh yeah, janky teeth. Fuck that noise. Like, whatever. Like I have prepared myself for that. Like I talked to my brother and sister whose kid I passed out to she was 3 about that shit. So I actually never thought you were being a dick.
Oh.
I mean, I guess in retrospect, the dick thing is like commenting on somebody's parenting.
Yeah, exactly.
So
which is why I was like, I'm being a dick right now. But
so
okay, go ahead.
So yes, you were a dick. But
see, you're making air quotes right now. Remember, this is a podcast. People can't see that.
I'm making air quotes. You were a dick. So no, you were technically a dick, but like you weren't a dick in such a way that like I felt offended by it or felt like put off as a parent. I just got really scared that I was missing something developmentally that I thought Aaron had noticed something, said it to you, and then you were saying it to me, which is why I went and texted your wife.
Okay, yeah, no, that's totally what happened. But it was like janky teeth and like proper pronunciation.
Oh yeah, that's not shit.
All right, so so that's where I like that was where I kind of wanted to like finally end this. Like I wanted to find out. So like this is the issue we have, right? Because of our unique dynamic, where not only are we like best friends and whatever, but my wife is also your child's teacher in daycare, whatever. So like every now and then, like, I mean, we hear stories about all the parents periodically. Like we usually don't get names or whatever, but like you actually go there and see everything, so you can piece it together if you hear it. For me, it's just whatever. But when she says something about Miles, it's like, okay, well, fuck, this is my best friend's kid. This is, like my little nephew Miles. And it's like, okay, do I say something or do I just let it go? Because on the one hand, I'm still commenting on somebody's parenting, and that's a shitty thing to do. On the other hand, all I could think was like speech delays, the janky teeth, like lizard mouth and shit. And I'm just like I'm seeing that character from American Horror Story who looks like an asylum monster with the like.
So just so you know, because
don't fucking say it.
That's not gonna.
I mean, that's the answer. But yeah, go ahead.
That takes way more longer than less than 2 years of the pacifier. So from everything I've read, even from talking to Aaron, like 2 years is when you start trying to break it. When they hit 2, you can have it up till 3. Some kids do, because when trying to break a pacifier, from what I've read, it is sometimes easier to do if they have some reasoning. So like with Caitlin, my niece, it was they gave all her pacifiers to babies who needed them, because she was like pacifying in the mouth, one in each hand.
Yeah.
With my other niece, it was they cut the ends of them off, and they're like, oh, it's broken. But they're closer to 3, so there's more cognitive.
Okay.
I don't think that's going to be a problem with Miles, because he doesn't have it a lot when I'm home with him. He doesn't have it a lot at daycare. Okay. It's the car and sleeping, and when he's like at the Y daycare, where it's like a new place.
Sure.
So it's funny though, because it's out of concern, and that's a good thing, right? The thing is, I trust Erin enough in her role as his teacher that if something is really concerned, that she will tell me, because she is business-like. She's business-like enough in her texts about him, even when it's casual, that I don't doubt she'll be like, hey, maybe you should be concerned about this, which is one of the perks of having him there, right?
And I guess that's the thing I'm never aware of, is because I don't know teacher Erin. I know my spouse Erin, and every now and then I like see hints of it when we go for graduation or whatever. But even then, like, she's usually off in the corner doing something, and I'm out playing with Thea. So that's interesting. That's something I wasn't aware of.
It's very like, even in texts that to me are very informal. Like, oh, hey, how's Miles doing? I'm texting my friend Erin. It is always like, Sarah will joke about it sometimes. It'll always be like, yes, thank you. Things are good. Like, very like.
Oh yeah, that's just how she texts.
Okay,
she's just like, she is not a person. Like she's not gonna like go into her autocorrect and like, change things so that she can drop letters. She's like, yes, good, bye.
But the minute I asked about that, the first thing I did was like, oh, here's an article like when it's becoming a problem, right? Which is great. It was really good information to have. So I really trust Erin as a professional that is something that she won't hesitate to do. Just like when I was worried about like the autism stuff, and I was like, hey guys, can you watch it? And Erin was like, he's fine. He's really, really, he's doing all the things you're supposed to do.
So the important thing then is, Chris, stop being a dick. Erin will tell us shut up.
But don't worry. When I think you're being a dick, I will totally bring it on the podcast. Don't you worry.
All right. Well, that's comforting. All right. So that brings us to our primary topic for this week. And we're going to talk about our philosophy of parenting. And so when I was thinking about this, and because this is very much one of my, like my brainchild, if you will, what I was basically thinking is like, all right, we're like all hanging out with the kids, and I'm doing whatever. And I was like, okay, so why are we doing this? What is the purpose? Like, when I think of parenting, I think about like, what is parenting? Is it just keeping your kid alive until they're old enough to keep themselves alive? Is it like trying to teach them good moral upbringings? Is it like making sure that they go to Harvard and have lots and lots of money? Like, what is our goal, and like, why are we doing the things we're doing?
I should point out, this is the most Chris thing that's ever happened on this podcast, which is you over intellectualizing a thing to the point of like it bothering you.
Yeah, no, that's totally me.
It's very like a very like.
This is my anxiety kicking in. I'm like, shit, why am I doing things?
Because you're saying,
what's the world about?
I'm like, yeah, teach them not to be assholes and keep them alive. Boom, parenting.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Well, because like when I stopped and when I sit down and I think about it, I look at like all of my actions, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I don't know, kid. Like sometimes my actions are completely counter to keeping my kid alive. There are moments where I'm like, we go out to the park, and she's climbing to the top of the playground or whatever, and I'm like, okay, she's going to fall and she's going to hurt herself. But I need her to learn that she can do this, and that I'm not going to be there to protect her, because I want her to know that there are moments when you are like self-sufficient, and that you are going to be able to handle the pain that comes from it.
I actually think you are keeping your kid alive. So I do the same thing. Like Sarah and I were like, we've been going to an apple orchard on Saturdays because I really enjoy it, and it's big open fields and run. So this one we tried had a big hill, and Miles wanted to run down it, and Sarah was like, oh, he's running down the hill, he's gonna fall. So she like, protected him like a good parent, and then he went off with me, and I was like, have fun. And he ran and he fell, and he was, and he got up and he's like, oh, cried for a second, then he was fine. I think what you're doing is good parenting, because it's instilling risk taking, which is an important aspect in growing up.
So,
but it's
okay. So you're talking about running down a hill, right? Grass hill.
Yeah.
So what you're basically saying is like he's going to fall over his feet and fall into a nice soft patch of grass.
It was kind of dirty and gravelly, but yeah, I guess.
So the moment I'm specifically thinking of is last weekend we went to a local fair, it's like the Bergen County Festival or something like that. And so at this at the fair, there's a big playground. It's like the big playground in the community. Yeah. And one of the piece of playground equipment they have is like, I'm going to call it like
It's like the diamond rope
shaped
things?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is a different park from what you were thinking of. This is the Van. I'm not going to say the name.
Yeah,
of it
I think I know what park you're probably talking about.
So this park has like this is like a giant, like one of those giant playground pieces, like where there's like a path and it swirls and there's like you can walk across the block to get to whatever.
Okay.
And so at the very highest peak, like, you know, where they have the big slides typically, that you can either go all the way around the path or you can take the ladder. But this ladder is, like, you can tell it's made for big kids because it's like a solid metal, like thick, solid steel pipes. And there are big gaps between them. And so I walk Thea over and I'm like, here, Thea, let's climb this. Because I know she's gotten pretty good at climbing stuff. I'm like, okay, she'll get up to like 1 or 2 rungs and then she'll fall. I'm like, okay, whatever, we'll go around the other side. But she didn't fall. And so as she's going, I'm standing there next to her. I'm like, all right, I'm going to let you keep going. And then she keeps going. And then she keeps going. And then she's over my head at 6 feet tall. No, like 2-year-old should be over my head by themselves. That's not what it's not supposed to. But the thing about this ladder thing is it's not like a straight up and down ladder or like a
curve one.
It's like it goes at an angle and then it goes kind of like straight across.
Yeah.
And so at some point towards the end, like she reaches the point of no return where I can't save her.
Yeah.
Like when I say I can't save her, I mean like I can't hover and catch her the second she starts to fall. She has to fall and then I have to save her.
Yeah.
And of course, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Because stupid playgrounds nowadays apparently have a rule where you have to have like a really tiny opening for the child and like metal bars on either side so they can't fall out when they're not intending to or something. Which I think is stupid because it's just like, okay, now you're going to fall out when you're not intending to at a place closer to the middle.
Yeah.
Point is, she was on the like outside part of this ladder and she was trying to go in. And as I think she was trying to like cross over, like right leg over left leg, I think she didn't quite reach it. She slipped
and fell.
She hit her head on the metal bar on the side and on one of the metal bars that she was. And then fortunately she like hovered on like a middle bar before she would have fallen like 6 feet to who knows what kind of injuries.
Yeah.
And of course, fortunately, like once she got caught on that middle bar, I was able to like quickly grab her and catch her. But no, she got like a nice big thunk on her head from some metal bars. Now, my point is that if all I'm trying to do is keep this kid alive, then that action is completely counterintuitive to keeping them alive. So I'm obviously trying to do something more substantial than that. I'm trying to teach them life lessons. I'm trying to encourage whatever. But that also, like, if there's a hierarchy, then that keep kid alive phase maybe should be the first one.
Well, I think it's risk reward. So as you're telling me the story and I'm listening to it, all I'm saying is good. Like, so this is where it's really weird for me as a parent. That happens a lot with Miles, where I don't worry about stuff that I should be worried about. And we talked about this in the childproofing thing, right? Like, my kid's invincible.
Right.
And the reason is because I try really hard to parse out like just how bad can they get hurt. And I understand freak things can happen on like a couch, right? Like,
yeah.
But even in that situation, so you're right, that would be a long fall for her, and she would probably hurt herself. But it might not be so bad that she would die. I mean, you can die. I understand you can die falling off a chair, right? Like, right. I understand this. It's like Miles going up the stairs in our house.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah gets really worried about it. I just kind of let him go. Now, eventually I'll follow him up there, but I want him to understand it's the risk taking, right? And I'm sure you do too. And I want my child to understand that risk taking is good. Also, what you've taught her is sometimes you get hurt taking a risk, and maybe she won't take the same risk next time. Maybe she'll be like,
oh, she did. Like 5 minutes later, she was on to the next thing. It was awesome. Right. I was really proud of her.
And so that's why I think that like, it's not her climbing off a building, right? Like if I saw Miles trying to crawl out your window, I'm going to be like, no, because I know damn well if he goes out that window, he's going to die.
Right.
Her falling off that playground where I know it's high, is it the cushiony bottoms like they're legally?
So, I mean, yes, but also no. It's that like the shaved tire wood chips.
Okay.
So it was harder than, because it was also, again, this is the big kid area. Mm-hmm. So it was harder than perhaps what some of the other areas were, but it was softer than like cement.
Yeah. So this would be just you talking about this would be my theory if Miles was doing that same thing. Sorry. Most likely, if he falls, he will be hurt. I mean, worst case scenario, he maybe breaks a bone, which is bad. Don't get me wrong. I don't want that to happen.
Right.
I don't think, barring some freak thing that, listen, could happen anyway, he's going to die. So I think you make the right choice as a parent. It's the risk reward of it, right? Because you are actually instilling survival skills in your kid by doing that.
And I mean, I guess there's an argument to be made there that our goal isn't to keep them alive today, but to keep them alive down in the future. And so if you want to take a less, I don't know, purely evolutionary, or maybe, a purely evolutionary perspective, then our trying to instill good values and financial rewards and that type of thing onto our children is keeping them alive. Like, it's keeping them from being homeless. It's keeping them from having to struggle for money and things like that. Whereas if you're purely trying to keep them alive physically at this point, then maybe you're not taking the long perspective.
And I think that, I think this is a great thing to talk about and a great question. The keeping them alive physical thing, that's always a concern, but that was
Sure.
like the forefront of my mind when he was really little, right? Because when they're completely helpless and you know that like certain ramifications, I think, have way more effect. Like, if you shake a baby, things like that.
Right.
At this point, I've heard other people say it, but my brother and sister-in-law say it a lot too. Like, they're kind of elastic to a point. I
Sure.
learned this with my niece Caitlin one day. She was climbing a tree. Same thing. Like, she had to be 6-7 feet up, and she was maybe 4, so a little bit bigger, and she fell. And I remember watching her going, "Oh, fuck my life!" And she got up and ran away. And I realized that okay. And then as I went into grad school with acting, you realize there's so much less tension. There's so much less stuff that they're dealing with. They're kind of designed in a lot of ways to take a beating. And I think a way that we aren't.
Right.
And so I think you make the right parenting decision, right? Like, you want her to be a certain way. And I agree with you 100%. I think you made the right parenting decision. Like, you knew the risk and you knew what was going to happen. And you were there and you were present. It wasn't like you let her do that and walked away.
Oh, no. And don't get me wrong. I don't think I made a bad parenting decision. I think the decision I made was geared towards giving her confidence, giving her autonomy, and making sure that she realized that just because she made mistakes doesn't mean that, one, she's going to die, and two, that things are serious. Daddy will be there to help her. I think it was a good decision.
I think it's a great decision.
What I'm but it brings up it brings up the thought, why?
But you just
is
said
it a good decision because of that kind of long perspective, or is it a good decision because in that moment where she's going to improve her current perspective of the world? For example, you talk about how they're kind of rubber right now.
Yeah,
and that's true
within a certain extent. Yeah.
I mean, and that's completely true.
Yeah, and physiologically they are that way, right? It's
and physiologically they are mostly like rubber and
cartilage.
All their they're rubber, but that doesn't mean they're impenetrable.
No,
for example, do you hover Miles when he's at home?
Not. I mean, if he's gone for too long,
just let him go with the question.
No, I really don't.
So we don't either. But we're so bad about it. Like, we have a step stool set up in the kitchen because Thea cooks with me in the morning and makes coffee and gets us vitamins and hands them to us. And we don't always take it down, and we don't always leave the gate shut because it's a clear line from our living room where we typically are sitting relaxing into our kitchen where her step stool is, and we can see her when she gets up on it. But at the same time, we have sharp kitchen knives that are not always within arm's reach, but pretty close to within arm's reach. And there have been a moment or two where Thea has brought us some sort of a sharp object from the kitchen, or like that cubicle I mentioned with the scissors. She's brought us scissors before. She's like, "Hey, look what I found." It's like, shit, you're going to stab your face right now because you don't have the coordination to not stab yourself.
Or the understanding that you can stab yourself.
Right. And so like that lack of hovering on the one hand, like, yeah, it's theoretically going to teach them lessons like, look, you can be autonomous and we're not going to come like hover over you, and like your mommy and daddy aren't going to do everything. You have to learn to do things yourself. But it's also directly opposed to that keep you alive in the moment thing.
Well, and this is where I think, so that's basically Miles going upstairs for us, right?
Yeah.
So, but this is where I think actual child proofing takes place. That's when you make sure that like you always put the knives away. Like,
right.
So Miles has a step, so it's not like Thea's, it's a smaller one that my mom gave us,
Uh-huh.
that he can get up and now kind of start reaching the counter. And he grabbed a lighter one time for like a grill. And I had that moment of like, I got to put that in a different place now.
Sure.
And that's what I did. I didn't change his ability to get on the step stool or go in the kitchen or go in the bathroom, you know, and I think that's the difference. So like you as a parent now take the things away that could potentially really hurt them like a knife, right?
Sure.
But you don't remove the things that can hurt them, but not hurt them so bad that they won't recover from it and not take away their autonomy. This keeps making me think about like our big kid debate. And while I'm not big on at least right now, like, oh, do you see the big kids doing that?
Sure.
I am a huge proponent of if he's going to try something that maybe he sees the big kids do, go for it and cheer him on. You know, it's like, fine, you need to be by yourself. You need to know you can go in the kitchen and come back. I'll go check on you if it gets too quiet or if I call you and you don't come back. And I think, like you said, that's the bigger keeping them alive. And our job as parents, I think right now, in a lot of ways, is to remove the things, like in the house situation, remove the things that can be deadly.
Right.
Within the reason that we can think of. So like, yeah, put the knives away, move the scissors. That way they can still have that free autonomy to be bigger. And you don't have to hover. You only have to hover if it gets, you know, like they say, if it gets really quiet when there's a toddler, you know, some shit's going down.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I worry about is the way, like, because how we're raising a child to be ethical and like to create like the personality foundation that's going to turn into who they are.
I worry about that a lot.
Because like the thing I have worried the most about in life, like in my life for my daughter, is her being turned into a princess. Because I mean,
it's just not something you want, and that's fine.
But it very much is. Like, aside from the fact, like, look, right now she's 2 years old. She's going to have a little bit of like a princess personality because she's the center of her world, and as such, that's kind of what a princess is, right? But at the same time, I look around at the world around her, and already people are like just diving in wholeheartedly on that. We've said before, she is very much babied at work. She's given favoritism because mommy's the boss. She's like, mommy is close with the owners, and so the owners kind of dote on her. Culturally, from one of the locations that the owners are from, culturally women are viewed as kind of princesses, and so she's extra treated that way. But even in our like neighborhood, Aaron and I took Thea with us to vote yesterday. Yeah, we decided, that was like, it was going to make her a little late, but we decided we were going to go over there and we're going to vote, and we were going to like have her go into the booth and see us push the button and vote. It ended up not being a vote for what we thought we were voting for, but screw it, we voted.
You voted. Civic duty.
So we get there, and of course, the little old lady's running the election. Like, they just look at us and they go, "Oh, how adorable!" Blah 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 blah. Like everybody does.
Yeah, because she's a little kid. She's cute.
She's a little kid. She's blonde, blue eyes. Everybody dotes on her. But so we're just like, "Oh, what's she gonna be as for Halloween?" Like, "Oh, she's gonna be a witch." Like, yeah, she said she wants a witch's hat and like a crooked nose and a wart. And they just go, "Oh, not a princess? A girl that beautiful isn't going to be a princess?" Like, no, she wanted to be a witch. She said she wanted these things. I'm just like, I really hate you right now. Like, I've never hated somebody with such little information, but I really, truly despise this lady who's, and I know you're just old and trying to be nice, saying that like, oh, your daughter is attractive, but I hate you for this.
And also understand that, I mean, maybe she won't, but she will probably also go through a phase where she likes princesses.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she is right now. She likes her crown. She likes her.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I don't mind her liking princesses. It's not the, like, I shouldn't say imaginary, but kind of imaginary at this point in time. Like fictional person, like character of a princess, like somebody who wears a crown, somebody who like lives in a castle or whatever. No, cool, whatever. I don't care. It's the like perspective of the princess syndrome, where you are expected, where you're expecting everybody to hand you everything on a silver platter, where you need somebody to accomplish your task for you rather than struggling. And that is the thing that I think people, when you are so obsessed with appearances over value. And that is the thing that I see everybody encouraging in her, and including ourselves every now and then when we try and like when she cries and we're like, oh, I love you so much. I don't get to see you but like an hour on the weekends. I'm going to hold you. I'm going to hug you. I'm going to feed you. I'm going to do all the things you want me. I'm worried that that's instilling a negative lesson for the future.
So I think that I'm not saying you're wrong. Because again, I know this is going to start a bigger conversation, but I have different challenges with a boy that are unique to us having a boy. Like,
you have the exact same challenges, but with a different topic.
Yeah. So like my thing is like, yeah, it's easy. Like I don't worry about him crying. Like if he's crying, people don't rush. I mean, people be like, is he okay? But they don't rush to fix it. We're not big to rush to fix the crying. Like it's just not something, because again, we don't want to instill that you can't do things, all the same stuff. But what we're concerned about is like, don't be an asshole.
Sure.
Like don't be a dupe bro. And what I've really come to understand or think about as a parent that, because that's a huge thing for my wife. I understand why too. And it's a big thing for me, but like, it's a huge thing. Like this is a huge thing for you. Like same problem, different. So one thing is like, you're going to have a little bit of that, right? Like you're always like, he's going to be, we live in Jersey. As long as we live in Jersey, he's going to be like a tiny bit of a dude bro, probably. Cause that's what he's around. But I also understand that I think this is where you as a parent have a ton of power. I know that peer groups have more power, but I think you have a lot. So if at home, you know, especially with the way like princess movies are moving, but not giving into all of those first instincts, right? Like holding back as a parent. And I know you guys have been doing that. Not running to, I know you only see her so much, but like not needing to comfort her in that way, right? There are other ways to comfort. There are other ways to let her have autonomy. Just like understanding with Miles that, like I was telling my wife, like, because he's hitting you is not because he's violent. It's because he's a kid. It doesn't mean it's okay, right? But having an understanding that as long as we show him examples, and I think in my case, like, this is what a good man is.
Sure.
Right? This is assuming he's like straight cis dude and not transgender or gay or whatever. Like, this is like straight guy. Like, okay. Like, this is what a good man is. This is your Uncle Chris. Like, he is a good man. Here's why. You know,
he's a dick, but he's a good man.
But he's good. But like, you're good to your wife. You treat your kid well. You know what I mean? Like, you're respectful of women and men. You're respectful of people around you. I try to model that, right?
Yeah.
So I think like when you look at your daughter, and I think that those things do ring home. I think they matter. And coming from a family of mostly boys, that was what my dad taught me without ever having to say, like, you know, very easily, you know, this is how you should be. This is how you should treat somebody. So I think with your daughter, you know, you think about your wife. She is extraordinarily well educated. She is very good at what she does. She is a very capable person. Those are all fantastic examples. And then you as her husband, because you don't enable your wife, right? And your wife doesn't enable you in any way that we don't as just relationships. You set that for her. I think that's how you remedy that as a parent. I think you guys do a good job at that. I understand why it's a fear, but I think it's one of those fears that I would be very careful to curb it a little bit, because I think it could really impact your parenting in not the best ways.
Yeah.
I think the same thing for like my wife and her huge concern about him being like a good man. It's true and it's valid and we want that. But if you let that overcome you, then every little thing's going to start just picking, right? Like every time he hits, no, he's just hitting, man. He's a sweet boy otherwise. If he comes in, like, go give Chris a hug. He's like, bam, 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 and his crazy ass run, his head's going back and forth.
Sure.
Because he's a sweet boy. Just like Thea's fiercely independent. I mean, she climbed a fucking, like, that's not a princess. That is someone who's trying to do things on her own and be a big kid.
Yeah.
I mean, without being a dick, my parenting advice to you, have it, know it, but don't let that consume your parenting choices.
And take away the pacifier.
He is a little bit.
Good.
Dude, listen, have you seen my son's tantrums?
All right. I feel like this is something we're going to come back to periodically because I don't know. I kind of feel like this is an important philosophical conversation to check in with.
It is, and we didn't touch on the thing, which I think is a longer episode. The thing that I'm really concerned about in parenting.
Yeah, we'll have to come back to it because we're already running a little bit long.
Definitely.
But so with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and pop into our emails. And I don't think we actually have an email today, but I wanted to go ahead and mention a comment that we had. America's #1 listener, Grandma Jenny, has decided she is officially going to tune out intentionally, mind you, for her first episode. And then her second and third ones, and maybe even a fourth, for our Funtabulous Fright Fest. I just want to say, in this podcast streamed across America for everybody in the world, damn it, to listen to. I totally get it. Take me with you, please? For the love of God, take me with you, Grandma.
So can I send a message to Grandma Jenny right now?
You must.
Grandma Jenny, you know that I love you. I think you are an amazing woman who's lived an incredible life. I appreciate how much you listen to us. But I am a little hurt that this thing that I thought up for the enjoyment of our listeners, that you're not going to tune into. I think you're going to miss a really important moment of your grandson becoming a more well-rounded person, conquering his fears, and giving us intellectual feedback on these incredible movies that he's watched. And I'm sad that you won't be there for us to watch them.
I'm just going to hide under the couch. I've already done that with a couple of the movies. All right, but that being said, if you want to share your thoughts on us shaming my grandmother, you can reach us
Sorry, Grandma Jenny.
at emails@twodumbdads.com. That's emails@2dumbdads.com. All right, that's going to bring us to America's favorite segment, Nick's Bake-tastic Ballyhoo.
Oh, I'm so happy to be baking again.
Oh, good, you are baking.
I did. I made cinnamon rolls for football Sunday this Sunday. I made a buckwheat loaf, which did not turn out as good as I would have liked.
Oh, I can give you a live review of that because I actually had a slice.
I brought half of it over for you.
It was mediocre.
Yeah.
It was very mediocre. It wasn't bad mediocre. It was just this is bread.
Yeah. And I don't know. Now, the problem is because I've never had buckwheat, I don't know if that's what it's intended to be. But I think there's a couple things I'm going to try.
It was very dark.
It is. It's a very dark bread. I actually like that about it, and I like the sourness of it. Okay. But I think it should be a little more flavorful. I think I know I can fix that. I'll probably make it again. Mm-hmm. That was not what my wife did not like about it.
Okay.
But I did make some scones and some cinnamon rolls, and then I made a olive sourdough loaf for a friend of ours who's watching our Beagle while my wife and I travel. And she gave it. Her quote: "This bread is damn good."
That's sweet.
And she's Spanish and loves olive loaf, so I take that as a compliment.
Good.
I also I had an important meeting today, which I will reveal later when everything's official.
Okay, that's smart.
But I made them scones for the meeting. Oh,
that's nice.
Because I was trying to suck up. And sure. I got feedback from them about the scones and the deliciousness of it. They also have been following Bake-tastic Ballyhoo.
Oh, cool.
Because when I said I was bringing something, they said, "Oh, are you bringing bread?" And
I'm not lying when it's America's #1 segment.
So I've been baking a lot. I'm going to bake some scones for our trip tomorrow. It's nice to have an oven. I realized how much I missed having that process while I couldn't do it.
Sure.
So baking full on go. I'll post pictures. Don't you worry.
We're running long today, but next week you're going to have to give us a full review of your new oven.
Oh, I will. Don't you worry.
All right. So that brings us to recommendations. So my recommendation for this week, you know what? It's a slow week for me. So I have arguably the most rudimentary of recommendations, but, as a New Yorker, or I should say as a New Jersian working in New York. New Jersian. Yeah, that's the official way of saying it. I read it in a book somewhere. Books are always right.
Books are great.
So I have a long commute every day. It's about an hour on the train, on the bus, whatever you want to call it. And damn it, I love it. I do. I love my train commute.
I hate it.
I love listening to a podcast. I love sitting down and reading a book. I hate it when I don't get a seat. Don't get me wrong. If you don't get a seat, it's the worst hour of your day. But if you get a seat and you can even if I'm just sitting, staring out the window, just freeing my mind, watching the trees go by, it is really peaceful.
What's your recommendation?
So my recommendation is to take public transit. Like we here in if you're in a major metropolitan city, this may not be an option for you. You're probably already doing it. But if you live anywhere else in the world, even if it's not like every day, even if you kind of like have to make a thing out of it, like, okay, I'm going to go to the zoo tomorrow and I'm just like, give it a try. It's nice and relaxing. And you forget just how nice it is sometimes to have nothing to do, to just sit and think and be with people in like a tight space. It's surprisingly calm and relaxing. So that's my recommendation. Nick, how about you?
I like that. So my recommendation is kind of a funny one. So one of the things that my son really likes to do is he likes to pick up books. He likes to have you read him books. Like really likes to have you read him books. But he also likes
to have you read books
like
to him.
For real likes, which you know what? I guess there are worse things in this world. But he also sometimes likes to just pick up a book and like look at it and turn pages and talk. I have a very short book that I've memorized because it's his bedtime book. So what we're doing at bedtime now is he holds his book and flips the pages and I recite the story and he fucking loves it.
Oh, cool.
So my recommendation is if you have a short bedtime story that is easy to memorize or you've read a lot, let your kid be the reader and you be the narrator. It's a fun way to give them some autonomy and let them do something that is unique to teach them to actually like what reading is like. And it's fun to just watch how happy it makes him to like feel like he's feel like he's reading. We've had a lot of fun with the last couple nights and I highly recommend doing it.
Awesome. That's great. That's really cool. I noticed he actually was doing that the other day when he was here. His the zoo book that he likes so much. I was just turning the pages and he was just reciting it to me. It was cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week. As always, you can find me at Chris Mossigan on Twitter and at Rampant55 on Twitch.
You can find me at NWestemeyer on Instagram, at NWestemeyer on Twitter. You can find us on the gram at 2dumbdads and at 2_dumb_dads on Twitter.
And as always, you can always find us at 2dumbdads.com.
And our Facebook group.
And our Facebook. Yeah, we have a Facebook group. Check that out too.
Yeah.
But until next time, be well.